Welcome to episode 17 of the Small Talk podcast with the Smallegan Real Estate Team. Today we're here with Jeremy Underwood with Farm Bureau Insurance. Jeremy, we'd like to start off with a review of somebody that worked with you in the past to show our listeners what real people have to say about you. So this review is from Alexis. So it says, responsive and thorough with their work. Anytime I've sought out information about claims, coverage, rates, or adding or making changes to my policy, they've been a huge help. So it sounds like they were talking about your team, but tell me about that.
Yeah. It's not that you have too many Alexis customers, so I know exactly who you're talking about.
Sure.
And they've been friends for a while, but also too beyond that, just dealing with their situation. They had special circumstances that we were able to kind of coach them through, right? And that doesn't always happen in every situation, but because of their circumstances, we actually helped them with part of their insurance, but left the rest of their insurance with where they're at for a few years, just because that was the best situation for them at that time. And when it was right, they switched everything over to our office, and I've got a great team, right, to help take care of them. So they've been great customers, and you always love when you get a review, right, like that.
For sure, yeah. Our
people take the time to do it.
Huge on reviews, right?
Oh, for sure.
We know that people will go online and Google you as soon as they, have a chance, right? Like, hey, I'm Mike Smallegan. You walk away, and they're on their phones looking you up, like, hey, who's this guy?
Absolutely.
So, and maybe that doesn't happen, but that's just what I think. So reviews are super important to my business.
Yeah,
so, how did you decide insurance was the right business for you?
Just like everybody, 10 years old. I was at a football. No, I'm just kidding. Insurance isn't anything that I thought at all that I would get into. My background, I went to school to teach. I was going to come out. My goal was to teach math, science, be a gym teacher. That was my major. And it was in the early mid-2000s when I graduated, and there just weren't a lot of openings, right? So my wife and I were part of a great mentorship team doing a network marketing business at the same time.
Okay.
Which was phenomenal, right? But there reached a point after substitute teaching for several years that I thought, I need to do something different, something else that can just provide a little bit more for my wife and our family. And a good friend of mine said, hey, I know an insurance agent. She's new, but she's looking to hire right now.
Sure.
You'd be good at sales. I'm like, I hate sales.
Really?
Right? Like,
yeah.
Who wants to sell stuff? I don't want to be known as a used car salesman, but I was open to the opportunity. I thought, I like working with people. And, so I got introduced to her and sat down with her. That was with State Farm initially. I'm, obviously with Farm Bureau now, but with State Farm initially working for her. And that was how I got introduced into insurance, I guess.
Okay. So you mentioned teaching. I've actually I've always had a soft spot for teachers because I just know how hard their job is, and just hearing from friends and stuff like that. But recently I just started coaching Lego robotics at my kids' school. So I got 8 fourth graders that I'm responsible to help them through a Lego robotics competition, right? So cool. This Saturday is actually the culmination of that, and we're going to go to the tournament, but I could never do that job. There's 8 kids that, are fourth graders that are hard to stay on task and focus, and I couldn't imagine if there was 30. So
yeah, no, classes are bigger now.
Yeah,
for a lot of schools, especially in West Michigan where things are growing. So it's not a easy job at all. I think we all appreciate what teachers do.
Even more now. Yeah. But so what type of insurance do you offer? Just basic or?
Yeah, so we do mostly personal lines insurance, right? So your home, auto, life insurance, things like that. But then we do have special lines that we'll focus on. So we can do business insurance for anybody. We have we work with Farm Bureau directly, but we have a brokerage that we can go out to other carriers.
Okay.
So we can help people with almost any need as far as business goes. But we have some special products for people that maybe have more land, nice house with a lot of property, or a small farm. Farming,
okay.
Right? Farm Bureau, we actually still do farm. Like State Farm doesn't do farm anymore.
What?
It's just, I don't know.
Shots
it is
fired.
What it is. Yeah. Sorry, State Farm. I appreciate it. But no, it's Lake Estate properties, so people that have lakefront properties, we have a special niche product for them as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it comes back to helping just everyday home, auto, life insurance. That's the basics and necessities of where we go. So
is there like a favorite type of insurance or like product that you like selling the most?
Gosh, the one I think that is probably optional for people would be life insurance.
Okay.
And it relates back to my story getting started. When my wife and I first got married, her mom passed away before we got married. So we were still dating at the time, and she didn't have any life insurance. We saw how much of a challenge that was for her dad. She had 2 younger siblings, I think were 7 and 10 at the time. So super young. And so we saw the difficulty there. 3 years later, after my wife and I were married at this point, he was diagnosed with cancer, and they gave him 3 to 6 months. He passed away, probably 3-4 months after that diagnosis. Thankfully, he had some small life insurance in place. He got that after his wife had passed. But my wife and I took guardianship of her brother and sister. So they were 14 and 11. We were 23 and 24. And just the importance, the value of life insurance, I think so many times people overlook it or think, that would never happen to me, but we experienced it firsthand, right? We got to see if you don't have it, what it can do.
Sure.
Right? And we got to see even just having something, even if it's not a ton. Her dad has something. We learned a lot about life insurance, so I love having that conversation with people.
Well, you never know, right? Like when it's your time, and that's only a thing that God can decide, and it's good that to be prepared, right, for any situation, and make sure your family isn't.
Most of us are going to live longer than our 30s, 40s, 50s, but it's not for everybody.
So, when when you're buying a house, when should you talk to an insurance agent about insurance?
Yeah, a lot of times you probably have insurance in place either with your current house or maybe a renter's policy. But when people start looking at homes and they want to get some prices, we really just need to help once you're in that, hey, we're putting an offer on the house, we're going to close on this, then we have to get those numbers over to the mortgage lender, right?
Okay.
I think a lot of times there's real estate agents don't connect to the insurance agent up front initially a lot because people are already insured with somebody. Maybe
typically,
that's the connection. Yeah. But finding somebody that you can work with directly is big. And I think, as far as when you need the quote, really when the real estate agent and the lender
send them your way.
I mean, you can get an idea, right? If you're looking at a price range on houses, but generally, if you're looking in the same area, same value, you're going to find similar rates.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation with a client the other day about, is there a different type of insurance that you need for your house if you are living in it versus you buying a house to rent it out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So homeowners is assuming that you as the owner of the house are living there, right? Yep. So that's a requirement for a general homeowner's policy. If you're going to be buying a house and renting it out and you're not there at all, then you need to get a dwelling policy for there to actually be coverage.
Okay.
Right? Because nobody wants to get a policy and pay for it thinking that there's coverage.
So
only to find out that there's not coverage. But yeah. So let's get a separate dwelling policy.
So on average, like how much more expensive would renter's insurance be than like
renters or rental?
Like a rental policy. If I were to buy a house to rent it out versus living in it.
It really depends on the area. If you're going to be in like the city, rates can be a little bit more. Or if you're going to be way out in the suburbs, rates can be high because there's not a lot of fire stations, departments, and stuff like that out there. But price is still going to be relatively similar to homeowners, maybe a little bit more because there's not the homeowner there to take care of it, but we're not covering all the contents.
Okay, so the tenants policy, would be responsible for that.
The tenants are going to have to cover that themselves. Yep.
Okay. So is there like a situation where you would say it was super interesting in dealing with insurance, like a claim that you had or some crazy story that you got?
Yeah. No, I think insurance, we get stories all the time, right?
Yeah.
As far as stuff that happens. My wife comes home. I come home and she's usually like, "Oh, what happened today at work?" And it's just every day there's a different story. I think last week, just over the weekend, we probably had 7 people that hit deer
Oh,
right?
man. I seen one the other
a lot
day.
Of claim.
Yeah.
A lot of those.
Luckily, he stayed on the side of the road.
I think even with just most recently, I had a gentleman that, LSU fan, great guy. He's from Louisiana, but he has a summer home up here because his kids are out in Chicago. And so their first year with us, there's no opportunity here for me to try to help them with other insurance. They've got everything they need down in Louisiana. So it's just a home. That's all you're insuring, right? So we insure his house, and the first winter that they're gone, a pipe broke. And so they were gone. They didn't come back for a long time. It was a main city line that was going into the house. So water was just flooding into the basement the whole time.
No one was there.
No one was there. I wonder why the city doesn't say something when the meter is just going off. Anyways, he came back to the house, and the water had completely filled the basement. Like, I would think it's like a movie when you think about it, but the water had completely filled the basement and was on the main level and was going out the doors before they figured it out. So that one alone, they had the policy with us for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Didn't even have it for a year yet. We had to redo the whole entire basement, all the contents down there. We had to do all the duct work because clear that out, and the kitchen cabinets has soaked up water. One claim was probably close to $200,000 by the time things were finished and settled. And a lot of times you think, why do I have insurance? That person paid 1 year premium with us, and it'll take us 200 more policies to make up that one claim probably.
Wow.
So
I actually have an interesting insurance story, personal, for you.
Okay, not through business.
That my wife
personal.
likes to embarrass me about. So if I put it on a podcast, she can't embarrass me about it anymore, right? So 2007, I bought my first brand new car. It was when I was still working in the wireless industry, and it was a Chrysler Sebring. And we bought it in September. And then the first week in October, we were actually going to visit her sister in Mount Pleasant at the casino, right?
Yep.
We go up there, we spend some time, didn't drink or anything like that. Come back, it's now 4 a.m, and pitch black, right? Coming down M46, and there's no lights
no street
or
lights.
anything, right?
Yeah.
And there's nobody else on the road at this time. And it's foggy, it's pitch black, and we're going up over a hill and back down the hill, and there's a cow standing in the middle of the road. I hit this cow going 60 plus miles an hour. And the farmer came out. Actually what happened first is we hit the cow, and then my wife woke up because she was sleeping, and she's like, what did we hit? And I'm like, we hit a cow. And that might have been the first time I've swore on a podcast, but that's what I said. So
it was quotes.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But she was like, well, where is this cow? And it wasn't in front of us anymore. So we got out the car, and then as soon as we got out the car, we realized all the lights on the car now are out because the battery was disconnected. We're sitting in the middle of the highway, and then we realized there's another car coming. So they weren't going to see us. And luckily they seen the car just in time and like screeched and turned sideways and almost hit our car. And then,
but no one was hurt.
No one was hurt.
Honestly, that's always
so
good.
we ran into the field, and like the driver of that other car was like, what are you doing in the middle of the road? And we had no choice, right? Like the whole front of the car was destroyed. And then once that car kind of got out of the way, we realized the cow was about 100 yards in front of us, like on the side of the road. So he must have went airborne.
It's a long way.
Yeah. And then the farmer came, then someone else stopped and they turned their lights on. So we were safer. But then the farmer came out and we waited, and ended up being, we made one car payment, maybe. I don't know if we even made that. But the farmer came out and he was like just a little too nonchalant about it. Looks like another one of my cows got out. My wife like lit into him, and he dragged that cow off the side of the highway with a rope, just hooked it on and just drug it into the field. And so we took that car into the place where we bought it from and was like, hey, we need to figure this out. Yeah. We thought it was totaled. All right, it's a $25,000 car at that time, and they looked at it. The original estimate was like $13,000. Then they got a little deeper into it. Then it was $17,000. Then it was like $28,000, and they still fixed it. So, because it was so new and they were already into it. So
yeah, if you've already started doing the repairs at that point now, if they total, they've already had to pay the repair shop.
Yep.
Yeah, so
yep, that was interesting. And I really don't have any non-interesting insurance claim stories. The other time,
have you ever caused any insurance claims yourself?
Kind of, actually twice.
Probably water.
One I'll count for myself as being it was slippery, and I actually was turning a corner in my neighborhood, and there was leaves, not snow. I slipped on leaves and slid into my in-laws' tree. So a block away from my house, I slid into their tree, and then that was my fault.
Yeah.
The other time, my wife's brand new car, I was pulling the boat back from getting fixed. We have this little speedboat. And that's, I think, every boat ends up costing you money every summer, But
right.
I was bringing it back from getting a seat repaired, and it popped off the trailer and ran into the back of my wife's car. So that was a 1-month-old car that ended up getting a boat through the back. So
it usually happens. I think when people buy their first house now, after being in the industry for 10 years, I encourage them to get a lower deductible. I think that first year that you have a house, the first year you have a car, it seems like that's when you're most likely to have a claim.
Yeah.
Right? We bought a new house 4 years ago, and I was redoing the floor in one of the bathrooms. And so I took the floor out, had to take the toilet out. I think that I can do these things on my own.
Yeah.
I'm not real handy, but I like to try.
Mm-hmm.
Take the toilet out, unhook the water, made sure I turned it off, so I'm good there. Put the new floor down, put the new shutoff valve on, go downstairs, turn the water on. I'm like, oh, okay, I got a little drip. Maybe I should tighten it. So I tighten the shutoff valve a little bit more. Now I get a little bit more of a drip. Probably tightened it too much. Most people listening right now would say, hey, you better go turn off the main water. But I didn't do that. I just loosened it. Not even a millimeter. And the shutoff valve shot into the air. And all of a sudden I have water just spraying straight up into the bathroom, just drenching everything. It was probably 1 a.m, so I was trying to finish the project. So I went running downstairs. I was on the second level. So you're running downstairs in the basement to turn the water off. I came back up to the main level, and water is just coming through the lights on the main level onto our new couch that we bought, yelling for my wife, like, get out here quick. Wow. So, I think we all have those. Insurance covers stupid, too, right? When you do something stupid like that, it can still cover it. But, no, in that situation, we actually didn't even file a claim. So we tried to dry it up as much as we could. I have some good friends over I go to church with a guy that works for John Grace Restoration.
Okay, yeah.
And so they do
see their trucks.
Yeah, they do mitigation work for water losses, fire losses, claims, things like that. And he actually let me use some of their drying equipment. And there's a lot of ways where you can fix some of these things without filing a claim. Not to say don't file a claim, right? But it was great. He was able to come do that. We had somebody just patch up the drywall quick, and we got out of there with $150, $200. Could have been really bad.
Could have had a water full of basement.
Yes.
Or basement full of water.
Yeah,
right?
would have been bad.
So has the shifting real estate market affected your business at all?
I think for sure, because insurance, you're talking about replacing your house if you have that bad day, right? Yeah. So if there's a tornado storm or a firestorm, values of, real estate, I think of the value of rebuilding your house. Well, I mean, we've seen the real estate values go up a ton. You probably know the numbers on that a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
But the same thing for the cost to rebuild.
Yeah, we 20% inflation year over year, like appreciation, which we should call it, right?
Yeah, but it's growing in value.
Yeah.
We usually increase, every insurance company will increase the rates for coverage on your house every renewal, but it's like 2-3% typically. The last couple of years, we've been increasing them 10-12% because if something happens, there's no way we're going to be able to rebuild that 1,500 square foot ranch for the same price we could when we started the policy 4 years ago.
With plywood going up, this is probably a good reminder to reach out and talk to your insurance agent about.
For sure. We try to do it every year with customers, or at least offer it. But now would be a great time just to review what you have and make sure you're comfortable with the coverage you have.
So I've been hearing about this Michigan auto insurance reform for a while. What does that mean?
Yeah, so Michigan's had the same auto insurance for almost 50 years. And we're the only state to have unlimited medical coverage. So if you're injured in an accident, right, all your medical bills are covered by the auto insurance. And it's been that way, well, it was until 2019 when that Michigan auto reform passed. We're the only state to do that. Unlimited lifetime medical coverage.
Wow.
And you could probably look online a little bit. In our office, Michael, his mom went through this last year. So it was June of 21. She was hit by a drunk driver head on. And she was in a coma for 60 days. She was in ICU for over 100 days. And she's recovering now. She's doing so much better. But her medical bills over the last 18 months have topped $5 million.
Wow.
So, and you can reach out to Michael. You can, I think Jana Strong or something is the hashtag. I don't use hashtags.
Seen that, yeah.
And it's been incredible. But the Michigan auto insurance paid for all of that. So every penny. They haven't had to pay a penny out of pocket. But auto reform has come in, and it's given people the option to opt out of that. So that's probably the biggest piece. There's a lot of different parts to the auto reform. I think the biggest piece is that people can opt out of that unlimited coverage and save a little bit on their auto insurance. And again, it's one of those things where I try to just review with customers to make sure they understand what the potential is. Yeah. I mean, because you can opt out of it, and your health insurance will start kicking in and covering some of those things. But there's some things that Michigan auto medical coverage, personal injury coverage is what it is phenomenal than what it'll cover. So, yeah, there's some moving parts and changes. It lowered the rates down. If you remember, we all got that $400 check.
Oh, that was a big topic, actually, in Grand Rapids Informed.
Was it?
Did you get your check yet?
Yeah.
And, that was a talking point for quite a while.
I have a feeling our rates are going to go up a little bit. Not because of that, but we kind of emptied out that fund. And then Michigan repealed part of the law that went into place in 2019 for people that were injured before that.
Okay.
So, anyways, not to get too insurance nerdy on you, but I think ultimately we'll start to see those come back because they emptied out that fund that was paying for all those people that were seriously injured, brain injuries, paralysis. They kind of emptied that out a little bit too much, and now we have to continue to pay for the higher costs on that. So we'll see that go up. Just, I don't know, I'll say that kind of like everything right now, but inflation's making everything go up.
Sounds like pretty normal for insurance, right? You don't know what things are going to cost, and that's why you have insurance in the beginning.
When you talk about like the car accident that you had, hitting the animal, right? Like hitting the cow, which is just crazy. But $28,000 in damage. Now we have people crack a bumper, get a broken windshield. I just had a windshield claim that was $1,700 for a new windshield. They have to calibrate it. They have to do all the sensors inside of the windshields. It's not your normal $200 windshield anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately the insurance company is what? They're paying for those claims for customers, and if the cost of the claims go up, it trickles down to the rates.
Yep.
It's there when you need it, though.
You never know, right? That's why they call them accidents or unexpected claims or whatever it is. It's
they don't call them accidents because you do it on purpose.
Right.
It's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah. So, have you always been at Farm Bureaus? You said you were with State Farm.
I started with State Farm. Yeah, so I started with State Farm. My first agent, she was great. She just didn't think I was working out for sale. I couldn't sell enough for her, which is probably true at the time when I first started off, right? So she actually referred me to another State Farm guy. He's since retired, Bob Visser. He was a phenomenal agent to learn from.
Okay.
And he'd been around for 35 years, so I got to see what an established agent was like. And after working with him for 3 or 4 years, I thought, kind of like you with the wireless store that you were telling me about earlier, right? I think I could do this on my own. Yeah. Right. So we had some conversations. I went through that process, and kind of through some God experiences, an opportunity to open up with the Farm Bureau, and I interviewed with them to open up my own agency. And I think it was from the time we first talked to me opening up the agency, it was 6 weeks. So it was It was quick. I was ready, and the interview went great. So that was 2015. Sounds like about the time that you went on your own.
Yeah.
Here.
That's awesome.
Similar timetable.
So, did you grow up in Grand Rapids, or why did you choose Grand Rapids to do or Granville to do your business?
Been in West Michigan my whole life, right? Grew up in Kentwood, lived in Granville, lived in Jenison, lived in Hudsonville. My parents like to move around. They'd be great customers for real estate agents.
There we go. I need to meet them.
You do. But no, they moved around a lot. So I went to Hudsonville from 3rd grade on.
Okay.
And just grew up in West Michigan, was here my whole life. Went to church downtown, East Town growing up. My dad was a pastor of a church downtown.
Which church?
Southside Vineyard. So it's not around anymore, but it was, late 80s, I guess, when he planted the church, because I was like 6 years old or something.
All right.
But yeah, so I got a chance to experience West Michigan, the suburbs, right? And experience East Town, Grand Rapids, downtown Grand Rapids, and get to see more culture. I loved it. It just gives you a chance to see I don't want to say that Grand Rapids is incredibly diverse. Man, it does have so much to offer.
Yeah.
So I love Grand Rapids. I went to college here at
Okay.
Cornerstone. That's where I met my wife.
Nice.
She's not a West Sider, but
No.
she is now.
All right. Yeah. Where did she grow up?
She grew up in Grass Lake, small little town,
Never
class
heard
of
of
like 50-something people.
That's in Michigan?
Yeah,
Wow.
30 minutes from Ann Arbor.
Okay.
So
We love Ann Arbor.
yeah,
Yeah.
go blue.
Go blue.
There you go.
Go blue. So you've lived in different areas. Is there like a favorite area? I would assume it's Hudsonville, or is there another area in Grand Rapids that you really like?
We love Hudsonville, Allendale area. So when we took in her brother and sister, we looked for a small school because they came from super small school when they lived with their
Sure.
dad, right? So we ended up settling on Allendale, and that's where we bought our first house, and lived there for 12 years. Just recently, a few years back, bought a house in Hudsonville again. But that area just, it fits well. Our family's all there. We stay close, and the west side, west of Grand Rapids, I guess you'd say, just
Yeah.
west of Grand Rapids. But no, yeah, it's a good area. I think we'll stay there for a while.
Oh, that's awesome. So what would you say to somebody like thinking about moving to this area? Like, how would you describe it to other people?
Yeah, I went to Chicago this weekend and realized that I'm not a big city person anymore. I used to like going to the big city a little bit just to visit.
Yeah.
I kind of like West Michigan. I think West Michigan is fantastic. It's a great place to have a family, right? And now with the city growing and all the money that's been put back into the city of Grand Rapids, there's actually stuff to do, right? Downtown. Yeah. So you can have fun. You can have the city life on a small scale, but you can also have phenomenal place to grow a family and have a family.
So what are some of the things you like to do in Grand Rapids?
For me, I love eating out. So
Okay.
we were talking about restaurants earlier, but I would love to go out anytime. Just get my wife to come out. She's not as much a fan of eating out, whatever. But hey,
Sure.
anytime we get a chance to eat out, I think Grand Rapids has some great restaurants to do. The shows at Van Andel and DeVos, I think that offers a lot of potential. Griffins, Whitecaps.
Oh, we love the Griffins.
Sports kind of stuff more so than concerts or whatever. But,
Okay.
Yeah, we enjoy that. Otherwise, we're doing a lot of stuff with family, friends, church that we're plugged into. We just do a lot.
It's always something to do.
Yeah.
What's your number one go-to restaurant in Grand Rapids?
Ooh, go to. We were just talking about probably top of the list right now as far as food experience was Bodie's.
Okay.
Right? We actually went to the one in Saugatuck, so a little bit different than the one in EGR, but same restaurant. That was phenomenal. And I've enjoyed just if I'm going for like a afternoon, sit down with client, friend, whatever,
Yeah.
Rockwell Republic.
Okay.
Have you been down there?
Not for a while. That's I remember going there like when my wife and I first started dating, and maybe for a couple of her birthdays, but I can't say that we've been there in the last 10 years. So
We went for my birthday one year with my wife and parents.
Okay.
They took us out. It's really funny because I hadn't had sushi too much, but I enjoy sushi now. I didn't know that I liked it that much, but first time really having it. And they serve it on plate. I'm like, sweet, sounds good. I'm not a big drinker, but my mom got a pitcher of sangria, and so I'll try a little bit. So I'm going to have the first piece of sushi, and I love guacamole. Like guacamole is fantastic.
my wife's favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. So look at my plate. Got all the guacamole. I don't think they gave me enough, so I put it on the sushi roll. It wasn't guacamole though.
Oh.
It was wasabi.
Yeah.
Oh, my mouth was so on fire. I swear I felt like a cartoon. Right? You could see like the steam coming out. So I took a whole glass of sangria, drank that down, pour some more in. It was my first sushi experience, but it was good. I have gone back, so I still like
not
guacamole.
the guac. All
No,
right.
it's not the guacamole. It's wasabi. That's funny.
Oh man. So how does Hudsonville, Jenison area compare to Grand Rapids?
Yeah, differences. I think Hudsonville is going to be Hudsonville, Jenison, that area is going to be a little bit slower pace, and really family oriented, right? You get a little bit more Dutch culture, I guess, because we're closer to Holland than Grand Rapids. I'm probably the shortest person in Hudsonville. No, I'm just kidding. But
you might be.
The Dutch people. You get the Dutch people. They're a lot taller. And I think Grand Rapids provides a little bit more culture on a small scale, right? Which I think is cool. I mean, I don't know if you like Easttown or you've been down that way, but
actually, I was born in Easttown. So in
really?
the 80s, when you said that church, that's where I grew up.
We were right next to the intersection bar.
So we weren't quite that far. We were actually on Lake Drive, across the street from, it's called what's called Gibson's now. I don't even know what it's called, but it's been a bunch of different places on Lake Drive.
I think Grand Rapids has that, right? I think it just has a little taste of city life, but it's not big city, and you always feel safe, which is awesome.
Yeah,
in Grand Rapids. So, no, I think it's similar. It's just gonna be more family oriented, a little slower pace when you get out to the suburbs a little bit, I guess.
So you used to not be able to drink on Sundays in Hudsonville. Is that still the case?
I don't think so. I mean, personally, I don't drink a lot, but I'm pretty sure. No, you can. I know you can.
Okay.
We just took my son, and they played flag football in Granville. And so me and a couple of buddies were coaching. And, hey, last game we should go to Vitale's. So we went to Vitale's in Hudsonville. And one of the other parents, we're like buying pizza for the team.
Sure.
One of the parents was like, hey, I'll buy you a beer on me.
Okay.
And I was fine. I didn't take one. But, hey, they do. So
yeah. It might have been like maybe 5-6 years ago that I remember that.
I know it was that way, at least when I grew up. And there was a lot of things closed on Sunday in Hudsonville, too.
Sure.
Just changed.
So you mentioned earlier you went to Cornerstone. Is that the only college you went to, or?
Yep. Just did my bachelor's there.
Okay.
And then stopped.
So I heard rumblings that you were in the Sports Hall of Fame. Like what is that for?
It's funny. Yeah. I ran track there. Had a good career, but I mean, who really pays attention to track and field too much? No, had a great couple years there. I think I still have some school records. No, I have a few school records that are still there. Had one broken last year by a kid. Actually called him up, said, hey, congratulations. Just fun to be part of that. But no, had a couple All-American relay teams that I was a part of.
Which events?
Good team. So in the All-American, the relays were 4x1 and 4x4.
Okay.
And cool story was my freshman year, and they had highly recruited me. That's funny for a small Christian school, right? It was just a couple guys on the team really wanted me to come. And so we were trying to qualify for nationals. And I had 2 fifth-year seniors and a junior and myself on the relay team. And so we hadn't qualified yet. We ran our conference meet, and then the next day it was the last chance to qualify. So we ran our meet. I did six events at that. And then we went to Eastern Michigan. It was our last chance to qualify. We signed up for the race. We drove from, I think it was Indiana where we had our conference meet, stayed the night, drove up to Ypsilanti to run the race, and we qualified just barely. So we were the last team to qualify for nationals.
All right.
We get to nationals, and if you win your heat, you basically go to finals and you're going to be All-American. We're last, and we had the second fastest team in the country in our race. And I started off, I was the lead on the relay team, got us a little bit of a lead. Second guy held on to the lead. Third guy, who's a fantastic coach at Grand Valley now, got the baton. And I remember he was coming right in front of me after I handed it off, And so here comes the other team just hunting him down. He was fast, but they were faster, right? So they're hunting him down. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the guy in second place right behind him steps on the inside of the lane, and they have these rounded cones. So he slipped, tripped everybody behind him.
Oh,
so
wow.
we literally just coasted in. Just don't drop the baton. And we won that heat, so then we got to the finals and got All-American. So from a team that didn't even know if they were going to make it to nationals, made it the last day, last minute to be an All-American was a fun experience.
Underdog story.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier you're short.
Yeah.
So is that an advantage or a disadvantage in track and field?
I did sprints and then long jump and triple jump. And in sprints, usually I was one of the shortest, if not the shortest guy in the races. But on indoor track, especially back when I ran, we had 200-meter tracks. I think Grand Valley has a oversized track now. but those corners can get really tight when you're
Okay.
sprinting. So I think being shorter actually helped me indoor quite a bit because you're going around those corners, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Those tall guys like you just
I
keep
didn't
getting
even
pulled
try.
outside.
Never did any sports in high school or anything like that.
No, my wife was a runner too. She got inducted the same year I did into the what do I think they call it, the Hall of Honor.
Is that how you met?
That is how we met. Yep.
Okay, that's awesome.
Met on the track team, and yeah, she actually is still a runner. I don't run anymore.
Hung it up.
What are you gonna do with sprinting, right? When you're in your 30s and 40s, there's just
Sure, it's tough on the knees.
there's not much to do. Yeah, so she still runs. She actually runs like half marathons. That's her thing.
Yeah, we got a guy on the team that does like triathlons and stuff like that. So
A lot of respect for those guys.
yeah.
It takes a lot of time and discipline to do.
and I know his wife runs too. Kurt Losnord on our team and Carrie. They both do triathlons and
So they do the whole
yeah, they're crazy.
sprinting
So
or running, biking,
climbing mountains, all of that. So
Yeah.
is there anything that you've like learned in athletics that you took on with you to your career?
Yeah. Did you do sports
No,
at all? No.
not really.
Okay.
No.
I think the competition side of it, right? When you run and track, I played football and basketball, but when you're doing an individual sport, it's just you're running to compete, right? You're competing against your time, yourself, but you're also competing against the guys there. I think there's always that you can do more to try to get better. And I think that taking that, being able to be competitive, to go 100% all the time is awesome. And to know that you can push yourself a little bit harder, right? I think that's been huge, not only just in insurance, but in everything that you do. You can always push a little bit harder. You can always do a little bit better. You can always get that next one, get the next goal that you set.
So I think my maybe experience came from video games, and I actually did sales kind of at a young age. I started in sales at 16 working in a Halloween costume shop. So I've really only had sales.
I was going to say, were you the elementary kid that bought the big box of candy bars and then brought them to the school and sold them?
That's funny you bring that up. So when I was in school, they used to have these magazines that you would bring door to door and get people to order something out of them. And we went all day, my brothers and I, so I have two brothers that are pretty close to my same age. And we went door to door to get this like boombox stereo system.
You sell enough, you can get it?
Yeah, that was like on the top of the list for selling like, I don't know, 100 things or something like that. Probably more than that, but
We're really dating ourselves with boombox stereo.
yeah, it was, I mean, I don't even think I had a CD player. That's when I had to get rid of it. So
That's funny.
And it had the detachable speakers. I should have held on to that because that was like kind of the first thing that I like really like worked for, that I remember anyway. But I think that was like 5th or 6th grade. And my mom would tell you that story. So
yeah, she's proud of you.
Yeah.
Right? Nowadays, it feels like the kids.
that's when I knew he was a salesperson.
They get those books or those sales catalogs and they give them to their mom and dad to take to work and just sell to all the employees. And the kid, I don't know.
So are
Didn't do it too much.
your wife's a runner? Are your kids runners?
The oldest two do. Yeah, there's a thing called Wyoming Healthy Kids Running Series.
Oh,
It's really short, but a little shout out to them. It's a cool event that they put on. The kids just run one race a week, and then they tally up all of their placing or finishes throughout it, and then they can win their medals and whatever. But, yeah, both the kids, it's fun to watch.
yeah.
Just, I don't know. Call it like I think running and track is a little bit of a different breed.
Okay.
And they all understand each other, right? But it's just fun to watch someone compete and go as hard as they can and push their body to the limits there. And watching your kids do it is fun. So they're both pretty good.
My wife ran track in high school, and my son would probably be really good at it. He likes to do the shot put, but he is really fast. He just doesn't want to do the whole like track and field type thing. But I think one of my daughters would end up doing it maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you said your daughters are 10.
I got 10-year-old girls. How old are your kids?
9, 8, and then soon to be 4 and 2.
Yeah. So I got twin girls that are 10. One of them is super into sports. She'll do softball. She's playing hockey right now. They're both the girls are into Lego robotics with me, and then one of them's the one that's doing everything is also doing Odyssey of the Mind.
Okay.
And then, yeah,
I think you said so. Robotics. Jennison has a huge robotics program.
we'll probably be competing against them.
Yeah.
So
They have their own robotics building down the street from my office.
We're jealous.
Yeah.
So we have a basement at a church.
Okay.
Which is fun. But yeah, so the twin girls, that's what they do. One of them says she wants to do gymnastics, but we haven't found gymnastics. She's tried hockey. She didn't like it. Okay. Then my 13-year-old, he plays hockey and he loves hockey. That's his sport, and he's actually really good at it. And he's visually impaired. So
really,
legally blind and plays hockey. So the first blind hockey player in Michigan.
Does he have contact special glasses that he can wear while he's playing to help?
So
how does he see the puck?
Here's the puck. So the puck is actually
that's incredible.
A audible puck. So they're trying out this new beeping puck, but the one he's used for the last few years actually has ball bearings. He has about maybe 10% vision. He'd say more, but it's about 10% vision. So he does have a little bit of vision.
That's incredible. He's 13?
13, and he's a tough kid. So, and then I have he'll be 21 this month, actually. I have a 21-year-old that is kind of finding his way. He's into computers and into programming, and he's working for a company that does like online part sales. So yeah,
the Rock Auto.
Yeah, I don't even know the name of the company, but yeah, it's funny what your kids get into, right? I didn't the hockey player. I wasn't into hockey growing up. I wasn't into really hockey, like even watching it, but I took him to a Pepsi reading goals game. So the Griffins offer a reading club. Basically, you read 3 books in the summer and you get like a ticket to a hockey game. I brought him to that when he was like 5, and he fell in love with hockey. And my wife and father-in-law would have preferred him to play football because they're big Michigan football fans.
Yeah.
But he wanted nothing to do with football. He was like, I want to play hockey. And that was actually before he went blind. And he went blind when he was 7. So,
if you don't mind, like, was it an accident that happened or something? Like
so he actually had a shunt when he was born. He needed a shunt, which the arachnoid cyst. It was spinal fluid that wasn't draining.
Okay.
And for that problem, they'll install a tube that goes in your head and down to your abdomen that drains spinal fluid, and that can malfunction, and it did, and that's what kind of led to the blindness. So
I was going to say, it's amazing what science and medicine can do.
We're working towards it.
Right,
we're meeting with doctors all the time. We have lots of good people in his care group, and we're hoping that eventually. But he's definitely adapted well.
It sounds like
reads
it, right?
Braille, which that's a superpower. Like I don't know if you ever tried to like look at the difference in the letters, but I can't even tell the letters apart, and he can read them. Like,
how long did it take him to learn that?
Not that long.
That's just incredible.
I
mean, not that I love hearing stories about that, because that's, it's hard. And
yeah.
I'm sure it's a lot of difficult times when you're going through something like that. But hearing people overcome,
he definitely has, like the whole hockey thing. And so we're with the Griffins Youth Foundation.
Okay.
So he started with them when he was just before he went blind. He started with them, and that was in October. Then November, basically that's when it all happened in 2017. And right after his surgeries, which, there was a bunch of them, he was like, I want to play hockey. What about hockey? And I'm like, I don't know if he can play hockey. The doctor was like, he can play hockey if he wants to, like, because he's going to be in pads and stuff. And the Griffins Youth Foundation didn't miss a beat. So they came up with there's actually blind hockey in Canada. It's big up there.
Really?
And that's kind of where we found it. So, and he's the only blind hockey player on the Youth Foundation, and really proud of him. So,
that's a real cool story. What's his name?
Trayson.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, that's a cool story. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's choosing to overcome, because it'd be really easy to choose to say, woe is me. right?
Yeah.
And it's a testament to you and your wife.
And he's tough. He is such a tough kid. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks.
So does it get personal, right? And like,
yeah. Who knows to these directions these podcasts go? So, is there anything that like maybe I should have asked you that I didn't ask, or anything you want to talk about?
Gosh, that's a great question. I mean, you and I talked a little bit before. I like hearing other people's stories. As far as I appreciate getting a chance to share our story, my wife and I's story, and about her parents and brother and sister moving with us. That's a big part of our life, right? Kind of changed the direction for us. But I mean, nothing real specific. I mean, I think we're very involved in church we go to, and we think that's a valuable thing, and the friendships that we develop from that help continue to direct our life where we're going. I think one thing that is huge that is always good to mention is the importance of mentorship. I don't know about you, that'd be a good question back for you, but looking back on my life through sports, through coaches, and then early on in business and like mentorship training systems that I was a part of, how much benefit I received from mentors in my life, right? So I think encouraging people to have somebody else that, people go to counselors now, I guess, but I guess I like the idea of a mentor a little bit better than a counselor. Who was it for you that was big that you would say, these were the top
I had
people
so
that
many
really
of them,
mentored
right?
me,
Like business mentors, even in the wireless world, I had guys that I looked up to that were doing the business that I wanted to do, or, they were willing to share with me like how they got there and share their stories, and became friends with them. Alex and Wally and Marvin, all the cell phone guys. And then, the different, like once I got into real estate, Steve and Bill are the guys that I got into real estate and kind of learned from them. And in different ways, they were just opposite leaders, and learned something from all of them. Right. And then I have a client, kind of a funny story, kind of going back to that Easttown area. So Jim Rybaski, which he's not going to hear this, and he always asks why I don't mention him ever. But he is a client of mine, and what the crazy story is, so he was referred to me by his daughter, who I helped them sell and buy a house, right? Okay. And he had several houses. He was a big landlord. He had homes in Easttown. He owned the house on the corner of Prospect and Fulton. It's a big green mansion. It was originally like Alexander Campau's like property, right? Okay. So like a lot of Grand Rapids history there. Well, I helped him sell like a cottage in Spring Lake, like 4 rentals in Grand Rapids. And then he talks to me about this house on Fulton Street. And I'm like, wow, it's a 14-unit in Heritage Hill. And he was like, you think I should put a fence around it? I'm like, a fence? Like, no, like you should not put a fence around that. I'm like, he's like, well, I think it would look nice. And I'm like, well, if you do anything, it's got to be like Mangiamo's or Gibson's, right? Which is across the street from where I grew up. And he's like, how do you know that place? I was like, I grew up across the street from there. He's like, did you live in 1040 Lake Drive? And I'm like, how did you know that? And he's like, I was your parents' land contract holder. So my parents actually bought the house from this guy, or tried to buy it, and we ended up losing the house back to him, which is a crazy story, but
small world.
Yeah, and to be reconnected with him 30 years later, right? Like, how does that happen?
And then to make that connection,
small world,
too.
Right? And I've learned a lot from him. And he was, I'm also a landlord. I have 8 rental properties. We just bought a cottage that we'll do some VRBO at. And we own a house in Mackinac City, too.
And that is different. You should talk to me or Ryan.
Yeah.
About the VRBO stuff.
Sure. So. Yeah. We'll get there. Yeah. And so it's so many mentors, right? And it's so important to let the people that that have had an impact on your life, let them know like that they have, right? Because people don't always realize that, like, how they help people.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, and you learn a lot of lessons that you don't even know.
Right.
Right. I have a mentor that I was trying to get advice on buying a car. Right. And so I went to one guy and didn't quite get the answer I wanted. So I went to another friend, asked him, and I was like, okay. So I went to this third guy and asked him, and, you know, long story short, he called me out on it. And he said, are you just looking for the answer you want? Do you just want somebody to validate what you want to do? Or are you actually asking for help, right? Or asking for opinion on what we should do?
Yeah.
And, man, it called me out real quick, like, wow, I am. I'm just trying to find somebody that's going to validate what I really want to do. So why am I putting my mentor in that situation where I want him to answer what I want, otherwise I'm not going to listen? And I learned a lot that if I'm going to ask my mentor a question and seek their advice, I better be willing to really follow that advice and listen to it. And I would say almost every time, you can't say every time, but almost every time when I follow the advice that a mentor gave me, it's been so much better. And I look back and go, oh, I see why they said that. So, yeah, there's a lot of value to that.
And I think, you know, even for me, right, like I know people are watching me and learning from me, even when I'm not directly talking to them, right? You lead by example and you do things the right way or the way that they should be done in your opinion, even when nobody's watching, right? So, it's valuable lessons, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, people could just take one thing from that, right? And you kind of hope that when you go to, you talk about continuing education that you've done for yourself. You go to seminars, events, listen to podcasts. A lot of times there's so many good bits and pieces of information that you can take and apply to your life. I'm always like, sometimes almost overwhelmed to where I just remind myself, okay, take one thing. If I could just take one thing from this conversation, or if I can take one thing from this seminar and actually apply it.
Yeah.
I've gained a ton.
Have you watched the Netflix Tony Robbins, I'm Not Your Guru?
No.
You really should.
Okay.
So the whole message from that is you can learn something from anybody, even if it's what not to do, right? So.
And then the question is, are you going to actually apply it? And do
it? Right. That's a trick, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So really appreciated you coming in today and sharing your story with us and talking with you about everything. And
thank you for the invite.
Yeah, anytime. So how could somebody get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. I think you could look up underwood-insurance.com, right? Otherwise, they can reach me anytime. Our office, 616-667-9250. If they want to check it out, we're always happy to help. Text or email, whatever, phone call, we'll help you out whenever. So
awesome.
I appreciate the invite, and it's my first podcast, so it's fun to be part of.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jeremy, and look forward to talking with you in the future.
Absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Small Talk Podcast with the Smallegan Real Estate Team. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our earlier episodes.